Best.Podcast.Ever is sponsored by the Gertzberg Law Firm, a full-service, award-winning business law firm in Cleveland and Chagrin Falls that appreciates what matters most to businesses: practical advice and cost-effective results. We understand your business because our team has the unique perspective of having real-world business experience themselves. Learn more at gertzberglaw.com. While you're there, be sure to check out Cover My Six, a proprietary legal audit that will identify, target, and minimize your business's exposure to lawsuits and government investigations. Go to covermysix.com to learn how you can prevent a lawsuit before it starts. Enjoy the show.
Ladies and gentlemen, you're about to listen to the best podcast ever recorded.
Sometimes recognizing to what ends we will go to be liked can be a rude awakening.
Yeah.
Because it really is a very selfish want.
Hey folks, Alex Gertzberg here. Welcome to another exciting episode of Best Podcast Ever. I appreciate that you're here. I hope you enjoy this episode. I really enjoyed it. You're about to listen to an interview with Jessica Horvat. Jessica is a psychotherapist and my psychotherapist. We get really deep on this one. We get really vulnerable. We peel back a lot of layers of the onion that is Alex Gertzberg. Jessica's really good at helping me realize, as she does with, I think, most of her clients, that we're not alone. This is a really cool, I don't know where we found this. Actually, I think it's on her bio on Psychology Today. No matter who you are, you have something in common with the over 7 billion people on our planet. You experience anger, depression, anxiety, guilt, shame, and a multitude of other painful emotions. The therapy relationship is a place to explore your feelings and experiences. It provides the opportunity for greater understanding of suffering and lasting change of both the internal and external. Yeah, that's all definitely true. I think that Jessica and I have known each other now for well over a year. I was actually referred to her by one of my best friends in the whole wide world, Nadine Ezzy, also a podcast guest twice now, once ages ago, and then once in the episode that's going to be posted after this one. But anyway, Jessica's an amazing human being, and I came to her at a time in my life when I was either divorcing or recently divorced. You know, I've always been already, I think, pretty introspective. And the big question that I came to Jessica with is, what is still blocking me from understanding why I think the thoughts that I think? What is preventing me from gaining even more self-awareness? And over the course of months of therapy with Jessica, I learned the answers to those questions much better. And we actually talk about them a lot here. I mean, I ain't gonna lie to you. We like I said, we go pretty deep. But so here's some of the things that we talk about, and we relate a lot of them to the entrepreneur, to the founder. And it's true what Jessica writes in her bio, that we are not alone. And if anything, entrepreneurs, I think, are extra exposed. We have extra types and frequencies of stresses that people who are not entrepreneurs don't experience. And that's just a fact. I think a lot of us have ADHD. I think a lot of us have imposter syndrome. And we talk about those things here. So we cover first her journey to becoming a psychotherapist and how she handles a lot of the emotional trauma, I guess, that her clients bring her. And there are some pretty traumatic things that her clients bring her. We talked about visualization and the visualization exercises that I did with her, and how powerful they were, how powerful they are for me, and how they are for her clients. We talk about entrepreneurism and that imposter syndrome. We talk about meditation quite a bit. There is one other thing that I wanted to share with you guys along the lines of self-awareness before I turn it over to this interview with Jessica. Because I've discovered this thing about myself and what has helped me. And I thought that it would be worth sharing because it might help you. So I started, and I picked this up from Nadine. She mentioned that she meditates briefly each morning before her feet hit the floor, before she gets out of bed. And I've started doing that, and it's been really helpful. So I will do a 2-minute or 5-minute guided meditation. I use 10% Happier, but there's Headspace. There's all these other apps out there. But I've noticed pretty clear changes in how I start my day and how my mindset carries throughout the morning because of that. And then the next thing that I started doing after that, like while I'm brushing my teeth or just going about my day, usually what I was doing was watching YouTube clips from the prior night's late night shows, right? Like Stephen Colbert and Conan and all that. And I still do that. But now what I've been doing is I've baked into my morning routine some like motivational talk, right? And I know that sounds silly, but 5 to 10 minutes of Simon Sinek, Jim Rohn, Tony Robbins. If you start watching some of that stuff and just letting them play for like 10, 15 minutes in the morning, a bunch of other ones come up over time and you get more suggestions. A lot of them are authors that I love and appreciate, but there is a note. So I started doing this like, I don't know, maybe 2 weeks ago. And I got to tell you, it has really helped me. It's put me in a really great mindset that has lasted all morning long and sometimes well into the afternoon. And my problem before was I have this negativity bias that I wake up with, where the first things that I typically would be thinking about are things that I'm worried about, things that I'm anxious about, things that I'm afraid of, and replacing those thoughts with that guided meditation first thing in the morning, followed by 10 to 15 minutes of some positive talk from one of these cats. And that's all on YouTube too. And I just let it play. Man, it has been really rewarding. So I would challenge all of you folks to try something like that and then let me know if it's helped you. Like I said, it's really helped me. So that's it for Alex's little brain tip of the day. I'm going to shut up now and let you listen to this amazing interview that I had with my good friend and therapist, Jessica Horvat. Hi, Jessica.
Hi.
What's going on?
Nothing much.
Thanks for coming and doing this podcast with me.
My pleasure.
Is it Jessica Scary Horvat or Scurry Horvat or something else entirely?
Well, my father claims it's Scurry.
Scurry.
Because he grew up in Boston, and that's how they pronounced it. And therefore, he never got made fun of. Yeah. But in Cleveland, it's Scary. Yeah. So it's actually pronounced Scary Horvat. Middle initial B.
What's the B stand for?
Jessica B. Scary Horvat.
Does the B stand for
Life.
Real middle? Okay.
Yes. It's a real thing.
Is it weird that when I hear someone's last name, I automatically think of how they might have been made fun of when they were kids?
No.
It's not, right?
No.
Do you think that's okay?
Well, with a name like Scary.
I'm saying.
I mean, you really don't have to stretch to taunt someone for that.
So many times, Jessica, I when I think to myself, is it weird that I want to call you to have you fill in the blank?
Wow.
I want to text you.
It's a lot of pressure.
I want to text you so that you can tell. But I think the other part of that is,
am I supposed to say yes?
Well,
or no?
I think that you will always say, no, that's not weird. Right? You've given me a lot of positive reinforcement for me to believe that nothing I think is weird at all.
Great. So keep on calling me then.
Well, I never do. I never actually type it out. But
so you've internalized that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Do you get that from clients of yours a lot? Is it weird that I do this?
All the time.
Yeah, right?
Because I feel like that's part of my role.
Yeah.
Is in a positive way.
Yeah. Have you ever responded to that with, yes, that's really freaking weird?
Probably not exactly that. I might have said, well, or, interesting question, the skirting, give me a second to figure out. Probably, or, usually it's not just, is this weird, or it could also be, am I wrong, but this is probably silly, but is this, it's sort of like a reality check, because most of the time people are assessing in their head that, what I'm thinking is wrong, what I'm feeling is wrong. I mean, you may or may not know what I'm talking about, but I do the same thing.
Do you, and so by now people have already heard my intro and know that you are a therapist.
Yes.
Would you describe everything that you do as psychotherapy? Because you are a psychotherapist.
I am.
But does that encompass all of the therapy that you do? Or is there like non-psychotherapy therapy that you do?
I don't know. That's a good question. I think, I would have to, when I chose that word to basically go on my business card, because that's why I chose it. Right. I had to give myself a title, which in and of itself is a little weird, because you can call yourself a counselor or a therapist or a mental health counselor or I don't know, I guess I could call myself anything I want. Guru, weirdness barometer.
Oh, I like it.
Whatever. It implies that I'm going to do psychodynamic work, which means I'm going to make you talk about your childhood.
Ooh.
So it's very hard for me to not think that way. Yeah. Whether I'm going to go there with someone, it all depends on the person and what they want, or what they're capable of doing, or what they're ready for, or their age. So I think most people that come to me don't know what psychotherapist means, as opposed to counselor or social worker. I knew I didn't want to be a social worker, because if you say social worker, everybody's grabbing onto their kids. Like, don't take my kids from me. So,
so I came to you knowing or at least thinking that I knew what psychotherapy was, and knowing also that you were a psychotherapist. And as, have you listened to any of Nadine's prior episodes on our podcast? She's been on twice. I think.
I have not.
She's amazing.
Okay, I'm going to listen.
Nadine introduced me to you to me. That was a fantastic introduction, because you truly did change the way I think. You created, or helped me, I should say, you helped me change my thought patterns. Right. And
that's great news to me.
So, I mean, in such an obvious way. There was a before Jessica and after Jessica kind of mindset, I guess. And my after Jessica, my AJ was, well, here's actually, I'm just going to tell people some of the things that you and I talked about, because I'm the patient, or a client.
Yes.
I'm the client. I'm allowed to.
You are. You can tell whatever you want. I'm just not allowed to.
Right. So I remember the day that I asked you, I think it was early on, like how you would define success for me, right?
I remember that.
Yeah. And I remember very clearly what you said. You said, I what I want for you is that you understand why you think the way you think. Because once you understand it, you can manage it. You can take some of the sting out of it. You can more easily change it if that's what's appropriate, right? Mm-hmm. And I would say that you definitely helped me understand why I think the way I think.
That's great.
Is that your goal with all of your clients?
Yes. It is my goal for everyone, and some people aren't interested in that, and that's okay. But I always make the same promise to people, and I call it the booby prize. You may or may not remember this, but it's, I'll ask people why they come. And oftentimes I get some variation on, I just don't want to, I want to feel better. And so what I say is the booby prize of therapy is that I can't guarantee you're going to feel better. You're just going to know a lot more about why you don't feel good.
Yeah.
And that is one thing I can always guarantee if somebody sticks with it, at least three. We're going to get a little bit of insight about that, whether they like it or not. Because sometimes it's not good news. It's not like you want to hear like you're feeling sorry for yourself, or not you, but you collectively, I'm feeling sorry for myself. That's why I'm suffering, or I'm seeing myself as a victim. That's why, or whatever. I mean,
the thing is, when you told me that that's how you define success, I remember being disappointed by that. I remember thinking,
really?
I don't care why I think the way I think. There's just some destructive thoughts in there
I just want it to change.
I want it to go away. But
it's the booby prize, see?
Yeah. Why do you call it the booby prize? What does that mean?
Well, you've never heard the term booby prize?
Definitely
come on.
No.
Okay. The booby prize is like you're all excited about, you're going to get your prize for whatever, winning the spelling bee, or I don't know, being a good boy or whatever. And then they hand it over, and you're not really the winner. The person who gets a booby prize is someone who is like sloppy seconds kind of. So. So it's like I think a booby is like an old-fashioned word for like a dummy, but I don't know.
So it's like a consolation prize.
It's exactly what it is. Thank you. I was searching for that word. It's the consolation prize. You might not walk away with a new car, but you will walk away with some insight about your suffering.
By the way, I think that you and I are thinking about sloppy seconds in a very different way as well.
No, we're not. And maybe that's one of those things that I say, could you remove that? It's a little inappropriate.
Would you like to?
No, don't strike it.
I'm saying that's a good one.
That's solid. That's a good one.
I remember being disappointed, but now I think we probably hung out like 10 times or something, like a dozen, right? Sessions. Mm-hmm. Now I'm so glad that I know, like, I think that I definitely know a lot more about why I think the thoughts that I think. And you were right. It is very comforting. It is very.
That's a great way to view it.
It's empowering.
I think you just didn't know what it was going to feel like yet.
Yeah.
And so once you felt it and realized where it fit in for you, maybe in the ways that you were looking for relief anyways.
Yeah.
That's when you got to test drive it a little bit. Right. And realize that it worked. I'm so glad.
Yeah. Well, you're amazing. You do.
Stop.
You do.
They can't see what I'm doing, but I'm doing one of my favorite, my stop go hand gesture.
We are coming back to this.
Okay.
Now I'm going to ask you things that are completely off topic. Because I remember always right around this time that the way I always want to start the podcast is never the way that I do, which is wins. Can you tell me a recent win, one personal, one business?
Well, this is a personal one. I got married in September to someone I've been with for a really long time and didn't think I was going to ever marry. So I guess that's a win because I see the marriage thing as a positive.
I'd say that's a win.
And we live apart. And he has his family and I have mine. And so we are doing something that what I found out is a little trendy. We're LATs, living apart together. It's a thing stars are doing now, I guess, because that, of course, legitimizes it. But so our circumstances made it difficult to live together. So I see that as a win every day, because there are plenty of moments every day where I am so angry about it or sad about that, or sometimes I'm relieved, like, oh, thank God I'm alone here tonight, or whatever, like I just want to eat these Cheetos and watch, Schitt's Creek. But I see it as a win, because I thought previously we had to move in together if we were going to be married. And I was convinced that I even broke off our engagement 2 years prior because he wasn't going to move in with me when I wanted him to on my time schedule. And so it was such a huge personal journey for me to get to the point where I could, and I consider myself to be a pretty open-minded, flexible person, but I was so attached to that traditional idea.
Right.
And we're doing it. We're married. I mean, it's only been 5 months, so,
I want to unpack so much about this. I'm fascinated by
But that's my personal one.
That's okay. So we're coming back to that.
I do have a professional one.
Go.
So I have a student now. That's a totally new thing for me. I've always wanted to do it. I just didn't know how. And they're a graduate student in the master's program at Cleveland State. And it has been a huge win in a lot of ways I didn't expect. One being that I have another person in the office with me, and I'm actually enjoying it because, I'm like a little mountain goat over there in my single person office with my water cooler sitting there by myself talking to myself. So, but she is thriving.
That's awesome.
She's seeing clients. I am sending her people. Her focus is ideally she wants to work with parents of gay and lesbians. That's her passion, is to help families. That's
a pretty tight niche.
Yes.
That's a pretty good
and it is
focus.
a empty niche too. So,
yeah.
So that's a big win.
Do you want to hear my wins?
Yes.
So we launched you know what the Bar Association is, right, for lawyers. So we launched a new committee of the Bar Association, and I'm chairing it, and it's called Legal Innovator. And we get lawyers into a room together every month to talk about how the profession is changing and how they're changing it. So technology, compensation, structures of law firms, relationships between law firms, how clients are serviced differently. So in our world, there's a ton of transformative change happening in our profession in those areas. And the light bulb that went off for us over here was all these people are just doing change on their own. They're just doing this stuff, but no one anywhere is bringing the change makers together into a room to cross-pollinate.
That's
and so,
exciting.
Yeah.
You pitched this idea?
Yeah, to the Cleveland Metropolitan Bar Association, and they said you should run it, and that's what we're doing. So we just launched it. We just had our first meeting.
How many people?
30 people showed up at our first meeting.
I'm picturing 4 people in a room.
That's what I thought was going to happen.
That's spectacular.
Yeah, I'm really excited about it. And then personally, Tiffany and I went to we took the show on the road. We took our show on the road.
Mm-hmm. I didn't know you had a show.
We do. It's called hang out at coffee shops and then explore towns and then have dinner there.
I like it. Might not be so fun to watch, but it sounds good.
It's fun for us
maybe
to watch.
To be a guest.
Yeah. And we have explored here every town in and around Cleveland that has a coffee shop and a cute little town square, and we just go and we explore it for a day.
That's great.
Yeah. So we took our show to Boston, and we just got back yesterday, and it was awesome.
And you saw my friend Nadine.
We did see our friend Nadine. She's so good. She's such good people.
She's awesome.
Yeah. Okay, that was I declare our wins session success.
Yes.
Talk about how and why you became a psychotherapist.
I had planned on being an artist.
I could see this.
It's not a plan that always works out, even if you become an artist. But
wait, what kind of artist were you planning on becoming?
Visual. I was doing music at the time, but I never wanted to make it big or any of that. Mm-hmm. I wanted to paint. So I was going to do a major called Women and Art. And I was doing women's studies at the time. So a couple years of, farting around in college. But my second year in, I was at Cleveland State, and I had started volunteering in the battered women's hotline because I was like a hairy-legged, fist-pumping feminist at the time. I shave now. That's the only difference. I don't pump my fist very much unless I'm listening to like hair metal. But I thought, this is really my thing. I so enjoy helping these women, and I was just on fire with the feminism and lifting women up.
How long ago was this?
This was in 1991.
Okay.
So I had taken a year off after college, visited communes because I thought I wanted to live in a commune. Then I came home and I said, yeah, I should probably go to college instead of living on a commune. Went to college and then had this experience on the Battered Women's Hotline. And so just out of curiosity, I called the Social Work Board of Ohio because that's all they were now. They're like the Social Work, Marriage and Family Therapist, Counselor, Zookeeper Board of Ohio. It's like 900 things. And I asked them, what would I need professionally to become a social worker? Because even if I was a rebel and a little bit of a crazy person, I always kind of somehow was a little grounded enough to know I've got to figure this whole adult thing out. And they said, well, you have to get a social work bachelor's degree. And I was almost like 3 years into college at that point. And it was a little disheartening because that wasn't my plan. I had my art, hairy, fist-pumping plan.
But that was to become a licensed social worker, right?
Correct.
Which is the only kind of license or the only kind of social work you wanted to do.
And it's the only option.
Oh, okay.
In terms of getting a job.
Got it.
To be marketable for your whatever $14,000 a year
Right.
job. As a social worker, you have to have an LSW, which is a bachelor's level license.
Got it.
But I wanted to do social work because that's about changing the world, and I wanted to change the world. So I hung up the phone, which at the time was a rotary, and it made that satisfying cling.
And it actually hung up.
It
Like
actually
you
hung up
the-
instead of
yeah.
me talking badly about the person on the phone, and it didn't really hang up. Yeah, it used to be pretty clear you'd hung up on somebody because it made that clong noise.
It was emphatic.
It was
now
emphatic.
it's like you're pushing a button and how.
So I was thinking, I told somebody the other day, it was so unsatisfying to hang up on somebody. It's probably why I'm better about not hanging up on people. It's like, what you, and you're not like, there's no exciting feeling of cling. Anyways,
It's more like a period instead of an exclamation point today.
it's even like an ellipse.
It is.
Because, they will be listening when
Yeah.
you're bad talking them and you've
You're
forgotten
right.
to hang up on them.
You're right.
So anyways, back to, sorry, I'm making this up.
No,
I have
please.
a habit of doing the long story, short story long, whatever. So I kind of see it as being like the universe came and tapped me on the head and said, this is what you're supposed to do. It really, honestly, it's maybe magical sounding, but that's what it felt like. And then from there, it was all about trying to get done with college as quickly as I could, being almost 3 years in. So that was it.
And how long have you been doing what you're currently doing, right? Which is direct, psychotherapy.
Clinical.
Yeah. Yes.
Since 2004.
I'm curious about how or whether and then how you are able to not like break into tears by listening to some of the things that people say to you. And that's part one. And then part two, whether and how you like take it home, like when you're done with the session.
Mm-hmm. I have had tears while people are talking. It's only been with my real long-term clients because I think that I have I have love for all my clients, but it, just hopefully, like in any relationship, it deepens over time.
Right.
And it's my job to keep the boundaries. Ideally they do their part too, but it's really it's part of my job. But my long-term clients, when they're in a lot of pain or when they're celebrating and something amazing is happening, I just let it happen. And it has probably happened 3 times since 2004. So most of the time, I don't let it happen. So I don't know how I manage that. I don't even get to that point usually because I have sort of like a boundary up.
Right.
I don't do it consciously. It just happens automatically.
Well, and I imagine too, when it is your job to be somewhat unemotional, right? Objective.
And not make it about me.
Right.
Because if I were to start crying during a session, I don't know about you, but if my therapist started crying, I would think, oh, I feel they're crying. Then I would be pulled to take care of them, which is part of the reason why that self-disclosure piece is so important, that we want the clients to feel like it's really about them and not about us. I
mean, I don't know how you keep it together. Is it accurate to say that people, daily, weekly, just break down into emotional, piles of mush right in front of you?
Yes.
Daily, right?
Every time. Well, not every time, but most times. I mean, Costco and Kleenex, it's a thing. Lotion Kleenex this time of year.
Well, and I have to let me set the atmosphere, right? So when one walks into your office, they are greeted by a warmly lit small little alcove in Cleveland Heights and a wiener dog. What do they call those dogs? Schnauzers?
He's a Chiweenie. So he's half Chihuahua, half mini wiener dog.
Yeah. Who has his own little cushion, but who comes and comforts your clients.
He does. He totally does.
And knows when they need comforting.
I know. It's amazing.
And then you don't sit in a chair or anywhere but a giant exercise ball.
Yes.
And you bounce up and down on it while you're talking to people.
Well, there was a couple times, one time I fell off. And then another time that my client popped it. And I had a 14-year-old client and she popped it. And I didn't know it had been popped and I sat on it. Well, I don't know I can't think of the word. She was messing with it with the dog and the hole got in. And then I went and sat on it with, my normal chutzpah and then boink.
It is very disarming, right?
Is it?
Well,
I worry. I sometimes worry.
No, in
about
a good
that.
way. In a good way. So I have. So Nadine didn't just introduce me to you; she also introduced me to our prior therapist, right?
Who was that? I forgot.
A guy named Joe Rock.
Yes.
Joe's amazing.
Yes. He has a great reputation.
Oh, he's fantastic. Yeah. He's fantastic. But Joe is in like this medical campus, right? And it's a very
clinical.
Very like the office is very functional, right?
Yeah, mine is not.
Yours is like
it's on purpose that way.
Yeah.
My prior practice had wanted for themselves a very medical feel. Mm-hmm. It was the value of the organization, which is part of the reason why it ended up being not a great fit for me, because that's not my jam.
Yeah.
It's comfortable, like you could potentially be in your grandma's living room.
Oh, see, I was going to describe it as a cross between a dorm room.
Oh.
Right? And also how I want my brain to feel when it's when it's stressed out.
I love that.
Yeah,
that's great.
Yeah, it's very inviting and warm and soft, and it has there's purple and there's like kind of a gold color here, and it's just very inviting and warm.
Thank you.
So we did this amazing thing where you had me. This was probably, honestly, one of the most meaningful things that I ever did in terms of just self-awareness, right? And it was a visualization exercise. And I've told people this, and then I've said to them, if you've never done it and been guided through it, you need to. Please do it, right? And you had me close my eyes. And well, first, the lead up to it was my homework assignment for that day was to come to your office with a list of the most emotionally resonant things from going back as far into my memory as I could, right? Mm-hmm. Things that really just kind of stood out as the most just kind of impactful, I guess, just like the hardest memories, the most difficult memories that I had, mm-hmm. the ones that stood out, going as far back into childhood as possible. And I came up with one that my earliest one was when I was 4.
Yes,
right?
I remember it.
And
you're sitting at the table, right?
No, I was
doing your homework.
No, I was being yelled at by a camp counselor.
Yes.
Remember?
Yes.
So I was a little immigrant kid.
Yes.
And apparently I had pushed somebody, some other little kid,
and then didn't understand what they were.
I didn't speak English. I only spoke Russian at the time, and there was a.
See, I'm getting goosebumps listening. I'm having a feeling.
You are,
but I'm not crying.
So apparently I had pushed some kid, and this little, well-meaning but inexperienced teenager who was the camp counselor. It was Annisfield Day Camp, right? Annisfield Day Camp. Great. Nothing against Annisfield if it's still around.
Many traumas have been had in Annisfield, so I hear.
This is once a week on your couch, right? The traumas.
Thank you, Annisfield. Keeping me in business.
So, she was like shaking me and saying, "On purpose or by accident?" And I didn't know what the difference between purpose or accident was, but so I just kind of stared blankly at her, and she just kept raising her voice higher and higher, yelling more, and a crowd had formed around us.
So humiliating.
And this poor little girl who somehow apparently I pushed, which I'd like to think it was by accident. But
I would like to think so.
But anyway, it was humiliating. And I couldn't answer, and I was just kind of stuck there, and I felt like the whole world was watching me getting yelled at. And you're having me describe this moment, right? With my eyes closed and visualizing, like, what's the lighting there like, and who's around you, right? Mm-hmm. And I was in that moment again, right? And you said to me, what does that kid, Alex, 4-year-old Alex, need to hear, right? And what does he need to experience? And I said, well, I think he needs a hug. I think he needs to be told that everything's going to be fine, that this isn't a big deal, that all, and I bawled. I cried like a baby.
Like a little Alex.
Like a little Alex.
Yeah.
Right. And then we went through something similar, but for other events in my life. Right. And it was so, so I come back to that. Yeah. I come back to that now. And I remember you saying to me, right, that kid doesn't go away. He's with you, right? And he grows with you with all those little traumas. Little T, you said little T trauma, not big T trauma. Yes. But they're there until you comfort them, until you hug them. And I have to tell you, Jessica, that probably, I mean, it really is one of the most meaningful things that I've ever experienced. And okay, so now let me ask you questions.
Yeah.
Okay. So do you find that to be uniformly helpful to people who are trying to sort of unpack, deconstruct what their sort of negative thought patterns are?
Yes.
Okay.
If we get to that point that you and I got to where you were willing and saw the potential benefit, because that's, I mean, if someone's going to write it off as being witch doctory, we may not even get to that point. But if we get to that point, it's going to be helpful. And some people, they're more concrete and they can't really, all of our imaginations are very different. We all think very differently. So it's all up to the individual as to, I mean, I remember you had lots of details, you know, and I'm even picturing the scene that I remember seeing as you were describing it. It's in my head too, because that's what happens. I close my eyes while my clients close their eyes, and I picture it too, because I want to be there with them as much as I can. So yes, I do. That is the answer, is yes, I do.
Yeah.
People find it people find it helpful if and when we can get to it.
Yeah. Yeah. And the thing is that when we then moved forward later on in life, right? And we talked about just other times that I felt isolated or sidelined or just ignored or alone or whatever, right? I mean, I really started to connect dots, right?
That's
yeah.
it. That
Yeah.
is the thing, because you can't undo that thing that happened, but you can recognize and understand,
Right.
back to your original, you know, the goal that I had for you, that if you understand that that's actually what's happening, that your little person doesn't know the difference between Anisfield and, you know, an argument with someone in your family, and that they go right back there, and it's almost like a trauma trance, you know, that you can understand that that's the intensity. Because a lot of times we think, well, why am I so mad? Or why can't I let go of this? And then that actually is the answer.
And I mean, the entrepreneurial, the way this has affected me, and that I would imagine, and I want you to correct me, or build on this, for your sort of more type A people like me, right? There is this drive that we have, and I think that we beat ourselves up a lot, right? And a lot of us have like an imposter syndrome, like why, right? Like, like just kind of waiting for everybody to realize that we're a fraud.
Yes.
You know? And I know that a lot of entrepreneurs feel that way. A lot of, you know, like sort of.
I feel that way.
You do too?
Yeah, I do. I feel like the professionalism police are going to show up at my door and be like, we have 626 counts of you being a fraud.
Right.
Here they are, and we're taking you away. Yeah. You know, it's not constant, but it's there. It's strong. So what are your observations from 16 years of doing this, right? 04, you said? Yeah.
As being the things that consistently cause people to have imposter syndrome?
I think the way the work world is structured is that you're supposed to have a boss, someone to tell you what to do, where to go, how to do it. I think that that's what I always thought, that in my family. I mean, I didn't grow up with entrepreneurs, and I don't know if that makes a difference. I wonder that, because I don't know. Do people who grow up in families where their parents are entrepreneurs, because, I mean, I don't know how much my parents taught me about work, period. But is that value different? Because I always believed that I would just find a nice boss to work for, who would tell me what to do and then tell me I was doing a good job when I was doing it. And it would be clear to me, you know, the old job description. And that's not what we do as entrepreneurs. I mean, we can't do that. I mean, it's against what entrepreneurialism is. So I think that that's part of what works against us and causes us to feel that, because we don't have somebody patting us on the head going, see, you're doing it right.
Right.
Because we're the only ones doing it.
My theory is that a lot of us have overbearing parents, right? And that drove us to be high agency people, or, you know, just constantly striving, constantly trying to, and I think you and I had this conversation. Our parents always meant well, and we mean well,
yes.
but we're idiots, and our parents were idiots, and they didn't know what they were doing.
Total incompetence.
Yeah, they didn't know what they were doing, so they were always like adjusting us.
And the ones who thought they knew what they were doing, or they were so overconfident, have caused other problems for their kids. So.
Yeah, but I can't tell you how, you know, and I really study a lot the journeys of entrepreneurs, and like I can't get enough of reading like this.
It's fascinating.
It is.
It is.
So many of them have like fucked up parents.
Really?
Oh yeah, like Elon Musk. I mean, there's parts of his biography that he refuses to talk about because his dad was so, just messed up. Steve Jobs' dad abandoned him. There's all of these stories about just kind of like screwed up childhoods, and I don't know. Do you? I mean, in your
did I ever screw it up? Childhood?
No.
I did not. I had a painfully normal childhood, actually.
What I was gonna say was, over the course of 16 years of learning about people's lives, right? Those of us who became entrepreneurs, right, who run businesses, how many of us had overbearing parents?
And people who are just simply very driven too.
Yeah.
Because I have clients who aren't entrepreneurs who are extremely driven, who had very difficult childhood.
Yeah.
So I happen to know a little bit about someone's dad and know that they were pretty hard on them. So that it makes sense because it's a like a modeling, but it's also almost like a challenge in a way.
Yeah.
A gauntlet.
Or what about just people with imposter syndrome, right? I mean, do you see a relationship between overbearing parents and imposter syndrome?
I feel like imposter syndrome is so normal, but it's intensified for people who are entrepreneurs, or even if they don't have their own business. If they're, let's say, I know people who are musicians and musicians have their own sort of world of self-consciousness, and because you're getting out there and you're going to entertain people, so the sort of understanding is that you are entertaining, right. I mean, it's a lot of pressure, but I don't know.
Okay.
I think that when people have talked about that imposter syndrome, they may not call it that, but they think that like someone's going to find out that they don't know anything.
Yeah.
That they really have no idea what they're doing. That's a very common, very, very common fear.
Ultimately, isn't it just another way of saying that you have chronic self-doubt?
Yes.
Right? And then
chronic fear about value, chronic fear about whether you matter, chronic fear about, because a lot of people have it's very important for them to recognize how little they trust themselves. And where did they learn that? Because as humans, I mean, we really have to trust, if we pick this thing up and put it in our mouth, we're going to be okay. Like from the beginning, we are toddled around and we can't walk or talk or feed ourselves for a long time. But after that, we're kind of on our own. So we have to trust ourselves. But I think our parents and influencers can teach us that we don't know any better. And that can be devastating.
I'm going through. So whenever you remember, whenever I came over to your office,
you were a note taker.
I took copious notes.
Yes, you did.
While we talked.
Do you have your notes?
I do. I'm looking through them as we speak.
All right.
You told this you made this great analogy. And I remember it for a couple of reasons. One, because it was so on point, but two, because you couldn't remember the name of the movie that it was from, right?
That sounds like me.
And
I probably never remembered.
Damn it. Now I can't remember the movie either, but it was about the seed being planted, right?
Right. I couldn't. Inception.
That was it.
And the other day I was trying to think again, because it's such a great metaphor. I mean, that movie is just so rich.
Yeah.
Even though it's got a lot of superfluous scenes of people shooting at each other.
Yes.
That needs like an hour of extra footage.
I would argue those are very important scenes, but that's okay.
Really? Why?
Well, because
you had to get up and get popcorn?
No. I love that they married, intense action sequences with this like deep psychological concept.
I do like that.
But I
like their white suits.
Yeah.
But I couldn't remember if it was Inception or Interception. The Interception's like a football movie.
Or like Immersion, I think you were stuck on for a second.
My head's like a sieve.
what is the analogy?
The analogy is that I won't go into the movie because most people have seen this movie. It's such a great movie.
So
if you
good.
haven't seen it, see it.
Yeah.
Whatever it's called. That a seed that gets planted grows, and in psychotherapy there is a term, inception, where a lot of times as children, we learn things from our parents. We learn to be frightened of certain things. We learn that certain feelings are good and bad, that how to behave. There are, as parents, and you are a parent too, we're supposed to teach our kids as much as we can to help them out. And most of the time we synthesize those things that we learn. So they go through our own personal filter. We can make decisions about what parts of those things are useful to us or not. However, some ideas are swallowed hook, line, and sinker. And oftentimes those are ideas about who we are. And oftentimes those are ideas about the bad things about who we are. So for me personally, it's never been okay for me to be angry. So anger in my house growing up was a really, really bad thing. And I'm a pretty big person, whether I'm happy or angry. So, it's kind of scary when I get angry. I just ask my kids. But so I really believe, even to this day, with all the work I have done, that my first thought is that I mustn't let anyone know I'm angry, because I am therefore not as lovable. That part of me is not lovable.
Okay, so
that's, and so I have that is a strong belief that there are facts that, debunk that, but I really believe it. It's like in my brain.
But what was the, can I pretend I'm a psychotherapist right now?
Yes, please.
What do you think
Don't cry.
I probably will. What do you think was the inception moment?
It wasn't a moment. It was a paradigm sort of thing. It was what my house was like. It's like this is such a trite example, but it's like that frog in boiling water thing. It's not one, I have a couple of memories of what happened when I got angry. One time, a family member flinched like I was going to hit them. It's a very strong memory that I got very angry at them, and I think I was angry because I didn't feel like they were listening to me, and I yelled and I said, "You're not listening to me," and I probably swore, and they flinched like I had swung to hit them. And it's such a strong memory, but that's to me demonstrative of what it felt like when I got angry, the response I got. So, but that's, something I discovered, and, I excavated that over time in therapy.
Right. There was another thing. So I took all of my notes from our various sessions and I put them into a digest.
Oh.
Yeah, with like 15, because there was so much, because I'm not going to read, 30 pages. And my digest has only 20 bullet points in it. Here's the other thing that I found, like in the top, like 3 or 4, like
zingers.
Jessica, I don't know, pick a noun.
Isms.
Yes, Jessica-isms.
Scary
you said, you said shame is the stickiest of negative, or you might have said something like shame is the stickiest of emotions, right? Do you remember that?
Oh yeah.
What did you mean by that?
That it's, I think, in my experience and in hearing other people, the most uncomfortable. Because with anger, we have the sort of secondary gain of self-righteousness, We feel like we're right and other people are wrong, and we, are indignant, so there's perks to being angry, that's just one example. But shame is just so deeply, deeply rooted, and it becomes like this, amoeba, like sucking up and getting bigger, because it's like every shame feels just as uncomfortable. Yeah. And it's almost like a chorus line of awfulness, like, it joins up with all the other shame that you've had over the course of time. And So that's why when I said sticky, it's hard to identify it.
Right.
For what it is. Brene Brown, that's all she writes about is shame,
Well,
that's not all she writes about, but it's her main thing.
I think, isn't it, at least in part, the stickiest because it often touches your identity of yourself, right? Like, so like one of the things that we talked about that was hardest for me was like the one time I lost a trial, right?
Yes.
And it was like traumatizing to me.
Yes.
Right. And I think that one of the things that we talked about was that it went to how I viewed myself as a lawyer, right? And
as a human.
Yeah,
not just a lawyer, just as a human.
Yeah, just
your
like I don't lose.
Core value, your core essence.
Right. And meanwhile, lawyers lose trials constantly. It's part of the game. But like I took it so hard because to me, part of my identity was not losing. Right. And which so I guess the question is, do you think that's right? Do you think that that one of the reasons it's the stickiest emotion is because it might go to how somebody views themselves as a person, as an identity?
Yeah. I agree. And one way I would state it, and actually there was a supervisor of mine who stated it this way, and it made so much sense. If you lose a trial, it's for you, not that you have lost the trial. It's like, I am a loser. So you're not, it's a statement for you was evidence.
Right.
That went back to, again, and if we're still on the subject of, inception, this very old, deeply embedded idea and belief that maybe not your belief about yourself, but someone who raised you, that you came to swallow hook, line, and sinker, that I am a failure.
Right.
I am a loser. I am incapable of winning. Yeah. I don't have value, whatever that might be. And part of psychotherapy is finding that belief because, again, you get to that point where you can understand that that's the idea from which so much of our pain grows.
So in my Jessica Digest here, I have a note where you had me state the opposite of what my natural instinct was, and one of them was, I'm actually not failing right now, right? Have you found that to be helpful in general with people to just kind of like rephrase their automatic negative thought into the opposite of it?
Well, sometimes people don't even know that that's not just a random, they think that what they're thinking is just a passing thought. They don't understand that it's part of a much deeper belief system that they have about themselves, and it may be affecting them in other ways. So when they try that opposite on and they're like, oh, but that's not true. That's not right. But then they start to look at it from sort of an evidence for and against. It stops making sense.
Right.
So yeah, we do. There's something in dialectical behavior therapy, which is one of my favorite type of therapies, called acting opposite, which is a tool that people use to change the moment. So, if you want to, let's say, push your friend down the stairs because you're mad at them, you would act opposite by not pushing down the stairs. I'm not suggesting, I'm just joking, but whatever.
Right.
So you're really, I know in my arguments with my spouse, I just want to isolate myself when I'm angry at him. So I have to act opposite and I have to move over to him and put my hands on him, hug him or hold him, because that's going to be what works in the moment rather than isolating. So my feeling wants me to run away. Usually anger wants me to vacate the premises, run away, but that's not going to work. Right. So I act opposite. So thinking opposite can be helpful too, because it uncovers a lot.
Yeah. Okay, we're going to take a potty break. Okay, and we're going to come back, and I've got more questions. I feel like I'm getting like a really good free therapy session right now. So I'm going to keep asking you questions that are important to me, and I don't care
good.
if they're important to anybody else, but we are going to be right back. I'm going to keep asking you them.
Okay, great.
Hey folks, Alex Gertzberg here. I'm CEO of the Gertzberg Law Firm and Cover My Six, and I wanted to share with you something we figured out long ago. The biggest value lawyers can give their clients is not getting them out of trouble. It's helping them avoid emergencies before they blow up. That's what Cover My Six is all about. To help you see why we're so confident in this audit, we're offering a no-cost, no-obligation business vulnerability assessment. My business lawyers will meet with you in person and go over your customer contracts, your employee handbooks, and other key legal documents, and identify any legal minefields they see. We'll also give you guidance on how to stop those minefields from destroying your business. We know lawsuits cost businesses far more than money, but we also know that most of them are entirely preventable, and we know how to stop them before they start. Go to covermysix.com to see if you qualify and sign up today. Thanks, and enjoy the rest of the show. All right, Jessica.
Alex.
You you helped me be more accepting, right? So this concept of acceptance, radical acceptance, right? Whatever, self-compassion, became a lot more important to me after I talked to you. And it was, for me, it was not just a matter of not beating myself up, right? Which I was prone to do, but it was also a matter of being with whatever was coming up, being with the emotion, right? And so this was a really important distinction that I learned from, because, you read and you hear, be with the pain, be with the sadness, whatever it is. What you helped me, I think, appreciate is what that means from a mindfulness standpoint, right? So, when you hear, because I want to hear you say it, because I'm probably butchering it. When you hear, be with it, whatever it is, how do you mean it when you say it?
It depends. For me, sometimes what that means is don't be an asshole.
Mm-hmm.
Because
it's a clinical term.
It is. The psychotherapeutically speaking, don't be an asshole.
That's right.
Yeah.
I forget.
The psychotherapeutic block. Remember that?
You said, that's in my digest. Don't block, psychotherapeutically speaking.
Yes.
That's right.
That's, yep.
This is, ladies, and this is why Jessica is the greatest psychotherapist of all time.
I hate the whole stuffy doctor thing, but I'm not even a doctor, so but I don't like the stuffy.
Right.
Some people don't like that. They can go see someone who's wearing Ann Taylor clothes.
Right,
It's not me.
Okay.
So what I mean by not being an asshole is that oftentimes when I am feeling, I'll just use myself because it's, hopefully will be helpful to someone. When I am feeling an uncomfortable feeling, because I love joy and I love, excitement and I love, good feelings, but I do not like anger. I do not like sadness. I do not like shame. I do not like fear. And when I feel those feelings, I want to act out.
Right.
So I either want to send a nastygram to someone on a text. I want to, go on Facebook and stalk somebody. I'm giving you my most extreme examples.
Yeah.
I want to throw something. So that's not always what sitting with a feeling looks like or feels like, but that's for me part of it. And whatever not trying to escape the feeling means, it's so different from person to person. But it's important to identify what do I do when I am not wanting to be with the feeling? What is the opposite? What do I do? Because some people drink, some people do drugs, some people eat, some people exercise. I mean, there's healthy things that we do too. But sometimes being with it is in our best interest, especially if we need to know more about what's going on.
Well, and your questions to me about it involved where are you feeling it?
Yes,
right?
In your body.
Yeah. Yeah. Talk about that. Because I actually don't think that I was like, I wasn't able to connect with any body sensations, but you were looking for them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A lot of people can't do that. And it doesn't mean that there's no right or wrong. It's just another, I always say, like, let your body pull up to the table. I'm sure you remember me saying that to you. Like, we're having a conversation, let your body pull up to the table and join in. And there's a special way to do that, which is to close your eyes and just be open, have an open inquiry to your body, just to notice what you feel. And sometimes it's like this, this is meant to be funny, but like, oh, I've been feeling gassy all day, and you're like, oh, I feel this, and it's to my side. And then we go from there.
Yeah.
Well, let's ask your belly.
Yeah.
Tell me more about that. Help me understand what's going on. And then some people get visuals, some people get memories. I mean, it can be a really rich, it's an intervention, just like how do you feel when that happens is another more real simple intervention. Or how did that make you feel?
Yeah, I remember for me it was a tightening of my scalp. Like I felt like my neck, the back of my neck. But that was about as far as I could take it, as I could identify like any kind of bodily sensations. But is that part of the question? Be with the emotion? Is that part of the right? Is like notice what it's doing to you. Right?
It's always part of it.
Yeah.
Because I think it's really important to bring your body into it because it's got information.
Right.
If you know that every single time you feel shame, you feel it in your gut, when you feel that feeling, you're going to go, there's that.
Yeah.
That must be what that is. And you can choose to be with it or not.
Yeah. Well, and not only that, but it's like an early warning system.
Yeah, especially with anger.
Yeah. And it's surprising how easy it is to just, like, after you notice it, like, to relax it. Right. And
or you can do, if you want to do woo-woo things, you can send light in there or send air in there and breathe. Some people who do meditation or guided imagery, they'll visualize yellow light or pink light, or they'll even picture like plants or animals. it's really, visualization is such a great tool.
Yeah. You love it.
I love it.
Yeah.
Love
it. I like doing that body scan meditation where you imagine
Yoga Nidra, right? Is that what it's called?
It might be.
Okay.
Yeah. I don't know. I put my headphones in and I turn the app on, and there's different ones on there, but I use the 10% Happier app.
Oh yeah.
That's a good one. And then Headspace I like that one. Do you use an app to meditate?
I use Insight Timer.
Yeah, that's an awesome one.
Yeah.
Gosh, there's like bajillions of
I know, it's a little
meditations
overwhelming. And a lot of bad audio quality.
Yeah.
Really bad.
But the body scan one that I listen to that goes to this point is they have you imagine when you're really stressed out that there is visualize a beam of sunlight coming down into your head and filling.
Oh yeah, I think you told me about this one. Yeah,
liquid sunlight and everywhere that it fills your body, you relax.
That's nice.
Right. And then you just feel like this great puddle of mush at the end, but it's fantastic.
It is. It works.
Yeah.
It works.
Another Jessica-ism in my Jessica Digest is figuring out what your little guy needs, right? Like at any given point when you're feeling like shit, right? And I think at one point you even imagine, because I remember saying to you that it feels contrived and a little silly, and you made this great. I think what you said is just pretend it's like one of your kids. Pretend it's like a friend. Forget, it's not. If you can't visualize it as yourself, as your own little inner child, pretend like you're talking to a friend who's got the exact same problem.
Yep.
Right. But identifying what they need, it was the important part of that. Right.
Yeah.
Is it always there? Are you always able to help your clients figure out what their little guy needs?
No. No. But again, it's like the kind of work folks want to do combined with their age and what they have going on in their external life. Because if there's a lot of external chaos, then they may not, it's sort of like it might be more of a luxury to them to do that kind of work. But if they can get to that point, again, I'm copping out with the same answer. The answer would be yes, it is always something people can do if they get to that point.
Yeah.
And it's different. One of the things that I've really, as you become a more seasoned therapist, hopefully, I know I have, I don't know about everybody else, but your flexibility grows as opposed to decreases, and you get to understand that your clients aren't going to all say, oh, well, my little person needs to be held or told that they matter, or they may say they need to sit by on a swing and need to be pushed, or that it's going to look really different for everybody.
For me, and I gotta believe that this is true for a lot of your clients, it was identifying the need as feeling worthy, right? Like what your little guy needs to hear is that he's loved and that he's worthy and that everything's going to be okay.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, that's got to be a common thing, right?
Well, it gets back to this idea that like it is essentially part of what, if we're thinking existentially, what we need is to matter.
Yeah.
To feel like we exist. And so that happens in different ways. And love is a very effective way to have that happen. So we have these early experiences where we didn't know what was happening. It's not like you were writing in your journal and discovered this about yourself. You just all of a sudden felt awful. And that feeling appeared throughout your life. And you identified that, if you have these early experiences that are, let's say, the little T trauma, or for you, that was pretty, humiliation is like very traumatizing for little kids, that, going back there and soothing that very deep need to feel like you matter, which for some people, I personally believe that's part of spirituality for a lot of people, and religion is that relationship with whatever their spiritual element is, or their higher power, whatever they want to call it, that is truly what that's about, is that sense of feeling like they exist, that they matter, that they're not alone. Because really, I'll never forget when my therapist said to me, I said to her one day, her name was Jessie Gordon. She's still alive, so I guess her name still is Jessie Gordon, but she's no longer with me. She's in Utah, and she retired. But she said to me, I said, I don't remember what I was talking about. It was before I got divorced, and I think I said, I feel I'm just so terrified that I'm going to be alone, die alone, And she's like, well, you are. And I was like, it's like one of those moments where you're like, well, aren't you supposed to be comforting me? But it came to be such a relief that was just true, and that the physical aloneness didn't matter as much as I thought, that it's more of this like psychic journey. So she taught me a lot of what I use in my sessions. I gathered a lot from her, and whether she knew she was coaching me or not, she was.
I'm really glad that you just said deathly afraid, because I think that fear is responsible for like 99% of all horrible things in the world.
Yes, I agree.
Right? And at the individual level, I think that when your mind has these automatic, I can only speak for myself, I don't know what other people's minds do, but when my mind has these automatic negative thoughts about either the future or automatic negative like regrets about the past, at its core is a feeling of fear that something is going to happen badly that I either can't control or that I can't bounce back from,
right.
or a repeat of something bad that happened in the past, but it's all fear-based.
Yes.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
Do you find that to be true? Absolutely. How do you deal with it? Or how do you advise people to deal with it?
Well, fear is one of those things that, it's a catch-22 because sometimes we have to pay attention to fear, and then whatever fear tells us to do, we should do. Like run, get the F out of there, or don't do the thing you're about to do because it's dangerous. So those are very different from the fear you're talking about, which is like fears that we have about life and about ourselves, like we aren't worthy, or fears that we don't matter, or fears that, people are going to laugh at us or not like us. I have a terrible fear that people are going to be angry at me or not like me. And the acrobatics that I do to avoid those things can cause me big problems. Like I can lie. I lie a lot. Even lying feels bad to me now. But, even saying like, oh, I can't make it because blah, blah, blah. That's a fear-based response. I'm afraid someone's not going to like my answer and not like me and be mad at me. So fear rules our lives. And it's very hard. It's an acting opposite thing sometimes with fear. I think that's where that comes in, because, if let's take your trial example, very easily, that's not something you can avoid in your field. You can't avoid being in that position unless you become a dentist. And then maybe even still you have to testify. But, so it could potentially really rule you if you don't understand that that's what's happening. That's not real. It's not, your little person is like, no, we're going to feel that feeling. We can't feel that feeling. We're back at camp, but your adult has to say, you're not alone. I've got your back. You matter. You're going to be all, whatever it needs to be. That's easier said than done. I know, but.
Well, what I wrote down, what in whatever that session with you was, is that anxiety and stress and worry are often based on fear of future doom.
Yes.
Fear of failure, fear of being found out, fear of people leaving, fear of people not liking you.
Fear of abandonment.
Yeah. And those are, to your point about, just as a human wanting to be accepted, wanting to be worthy, right? All of those things go right to that, right?
Sometimes recognizing to what ends we will go to be liked can be a rude awakening.
Yeah.
Because it really is a very selfish want. I don't know about you, but I always admit this to my clients who are parents. I want my kids to think I'm the best mom on the planet. And I used to get so mad at them when they didn't like my cooking. I would get angry. I would storm up to my room. I would scream and yell. They don't like my cooking, but it was about my value, my worth. I needed their participation in this game that I was the best mother ever. If I can let go of needing to be the best mother and they can say, I don't like this, has got onions in it. Boy, oh boy, life just gets a little bit easier.
Yeah. Bringing this back again to running a business. And I know a lot of my peers, my business owning peers, take it really, really hard when people quit, right? Like I take it so personally, I take it as like a personal indictment on them.
That you suck.
Yeah. Or just rejecting everything that I've tried to do to build this organization that people are going to be happy, clamoring over each other to join.
Where's the best place ever?
Yeah.
Alex's place.
For sure. Like
best boss.
Isn't it obvious? Yeah. But I take it like such a punch in the gut, and
you may do things out of fear of that like the acrobatics that you didn't even know were related to that fear of having to feel that feeling of rejection or whatever it might be.
Yeah. And it changes the way, I think like I don't, for me, it's not that I won't have an uncomfortable conversation, but I have this little feeling of terror when I do.
Oh, yes.
You know, like, are they about to quit? Are they about to walk out because I'm criticizing them? Mm-hmm. You know?
Yep. Good insight, Alex.
Well, thank you, Jessica. I've got a great therapist.
I'll take credit for it.
But I mean, this gets back to the mindfulness aspects of your therapy, right? Is, noticing that the fear is there.
Yeah.
Seeing it.
Sitting with it.
Sitting with it, being aware of it. That empowers you. It takes a lot of it is a feeling. It is there. Don't fight it, right? Just notice that it's there and what it's doing to you in your body, right?
And I will survive.
Yes.
I can get through. I just told a client today, nobody ever died from feeling rejected. And it's a silly concept because it's not really what she's afraid of, but she doesn't want to feel the feels. None of us want to feel the feels.
Right.
I don't want to feel icky feels. I mean, we do a lot to avoid those things. So one of the most important lessons I have learned in my whole life is that I can actually feel feelings, that I can do it.
Yeah.
I can get to the other side of them. I can do it sometimes even without being an asshole. It's really, it's a very freeing thing because then it's not so terrifying to function, go through the, cook meatballs with onions in them and then somebody's not going to like them.
Right.
I know that's not really so much about the meatballs, but it's a real life example.
Have you had any deeply personal conversations with your kids about whether they really do in fact like your food?
What
is it about my meatballs that you freaking don't like?
I know what it is. It's that my daughter doesn't like anything that is inconsistent with the consistency. So she wants to have a very uniform chicken nugget life when it comes to food. Everything's got to be the same color. Everything's got to be, it's always been that way. My son, on the other hand, is one of these people that'll give it a look like, ew, it's got worms coming out of it. And he'll taste it and he's a very expressive guy. And his face will change and he'll go, Mom, that's spectacular. So if I wait around, he's the one who'll put up the huge wall. My daughter's sort of a slow and steady wins the race. I know she's going to pick something out of her, go, ew, what's that? And pick it out of her mouth. And I'm good with that because it actually, I've felt the feel over and over and over again. It's like, when you go to a haunted house, I don't know, I don't like haunted houses, but it's the only example I could think of. Like after a while, you get kind of like, it's not as scary to do something you do over and over and over again. So I've just continued. I love to cook. So it was feeling really empty and miserable to cook them chicken nuggets and hot dogs and pasta every day. So I faced my fear, rolled up my sleeves and made meatballs with onions. And I'm surviving it.
Yeah.
I know it's such champagne problems.
Well, I have two comments about your kids. One is I feel like the day is coming where you have a conversation with your daughter and you analogize life to chicken nuggets. And you say life is not a simple chicken nugget everyday kind of life.
And just so you know, I know you're dying to know this, but there's a chemical that is not only used in makeup and white paint pigment, but it is also used in the batter of chicken nuggets. It's called titanium dioxide.
I'm not surprised by that at all.
And it makes them look glistening and delicious.
Yeah. Do you ever see Food Inc.?
No, but my new doctor told me to watch that and Forks Over Knives.
Yeah. You'll never eat chicken nuggets again after you watch
I try not to eat them now.
Yeah, me too.
Unless they look ununiform.
Right. But the other observation about your children that I'm going to make is that your son, when we ran into you
Trunk or treat.
At Truck or Treat.
Trunk or treat was what you went to the weekend before. That was not a kid-friendly event.
Trunk or treat. That's right.
Yeah.
And we ran into you, and I can't remember what your son actually said, but I remember as he was talking, I remember thinking, is this kid like 67 years old? Is he like a retired surgeon? He was so erudite and so precise with his words.
Yeah.
And
he's been like that.
He
spoke full sentences very early on.
Yeah, there's a little like Supreme Court justice in him, just clawing his way out.
One time, a friend of mine who's extremely sarcastic said, "You better start saving bail money for that guy, not college money."
Yeah, well, he's brilliant.
Either way, maybe I can transfer that college fund to. Bail.
So you go by another name, Jessica.
Yes. Only one client has looked up that other name, by the way.
Oh, we're clearly not talking about the same thing.
Oh, okay.
Wait, you go first. What were you talking about?
Oh, well, I'll make you say it. Go ahead.
Well, I was going to say Lounge Kitty.
Yeah, Lounge Kitty. I had a client look up Lounge Kitty one time. That's the only other name out there. I swear.
I thought you were going to say that you had like
Trixie Surprise.
Yeah, or like an
name.
like an alias from like some crime that you committed as
Boozer
a kid.
Capone or something.
Lounge Kitty.
Yes. Lounge Kitty.
So, talk about that. First, tell me what your what the folks at at Crumb and Spigot or wherever they're going to see Lounge Kitty. What is the act? And then tell me how you came to be Lounge Kitty.
Well, if you come to Crumb and Spigot, it's on the day before Valentine's Day. I think that they sell it pretty quick because they're a small restaurant. But if you want to give it a try, this may air after that anyways.
It will actually, yeah.
So anyways, but you might see Lounge Kitty here or there. It is I call it deviant cabaret because Lounge Kitty is like 6'4" in her wig. I wear a big bouffant wig and a vintage 60s tacky dress, and I sing and I make jokes and I sit on people's lap and I do audience participation and I dance and I'm really nasty and not mean nasty like drag queen nasty.
Right.
But people have said you're like the drag queen without the duct tape because, it's a really, kind of goofy theatrical look.
Well, you're like the drag queen, but without the drag.
Without the drag. Right? Yeah, exactly. So, I'm a singer, so I sing and I enjoy singing and I do a good job. It's not goofy singing, but it's very tongue in cheek and it's a show. It's a little bit of everything. And I do not, the only thing I do, and actually where I'm going after this is rehearsal because we're doing 2 new songs at the gig. We're doing a up-tempo swing version of Total Eclipse of the Heart for Valentine's Day. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, better than ever.
That's
better than
outstanding.
ever. And the other one is a long-forgotten Stevie Wonder, Part-Time Lover. Do you remember that song?
I do. That's a great tune.
I
I could see how both of those could be a like comedic lounge act kind
You
of
know
thing.
what?
I get it.
I do loungy versions of songs that aren't lounge, and then I don't plan anything other than the music. We rehearse the music, but whatever else comes out of my mouth. And my colleagues have said to me, like my piano player will say to me, why don't you, he has a British accent, so this is my best Moss imitation. Why did you do that joke about the blah, blah, blah? I'm like, I don't plan anything ahead of time. And I don't. Whatever comes out of my mouth is what comes out of my mouth. People love it. That's what they come to see is.
Right.
And it's very dirty and inappropriate.
I'm imagining like, I don't know. Is there any Yiddish that comes out? Is there like shtick that's like, there is, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah.
There's always a little shtick. Somebody wrote a thing about me one time that said I was part Catskills Resort. Like we have, my husband and I have an ongoing joke that our retirement plan, we're going to call it the White Chocolate Soul Review. It's just going to be me and him playing drums. He's a drummer, and me singing and with a little Casio keyboard doing like I think it's something in Elaine, Marty and Elaine from I don't remember that movie. You remember from years?
Back to the Future?
No.
There's Marty.
No.
And there was a...
No.
that was Lorraine. Lorraine was Marty's mom.
Marty's mom. Anyways, moving on.
Got it.
So yes.
Okay. So how did you?
You want to know how?
Yeah, I want to know what the journey to Lounge Kitty.
I was in a band called Swank Motel in the 90s.
Of course you were.
Swank Motel was a lounge act that did lounge versions of rock and punk songs, and they would open up for a lot of the punk venues like Euclid Tavern and things like that, Grog Shop. And their singer quit and I took over. And so I sang with them for a long time. So when that band broke off, a friend of mine John Chach, who used to run the public programs at the Museum of Contemporary Art, came to me and said, we're having a tacky art opening. This artist does this tacky wallpaper art, and we need a tacky singer. And I thought of you immediately, is what he said. And I didn't know whether to be insulted or what. So he said, do you think you could get a group together? And I said, sure. And he said, well, come up with a name within the week and I'll market it. And it just came to me, Lounge Kitty.
It's brilliant.
So thank you.
Where would one, assuming that they have not gone to your show at Crumb and Spigot, which is this Friday, where would one go to find where Lounge Kitty?
The Catskills. No, I'm in Lounge Kitty's in semi-retirement right now. So I don't really have a regular gig. I've been doing Lounge Kitty for like 18 years. So she's getting a little crotchety. But
I think that doesn't that make it funnier? Like if you're like in your 60s and you're Lounge Kitty, isn't that even funnier?
Well, my daughter has done a gig with me. She's turning 13 this Friday. When she was in utero, I was 8.5 months pregnant, and I planned to have a baby on stage during the show. So I had rigged up this thing with a grocery bag and put a plastic baby doll under my dress. And
that's ridiculous.
Oh yeah. For years after the shows, I would get emails from people who passed the baby around, audience members.
Right.
I've got the baby. Anyway, so nowhere to see Lounge Kitty right now, but I do sing with different groups. I sing in a group called Nightbridge, and we do a Motown show. So I'll be at the Music Box, and I'm in an 80s band that's coming soon to a theater near you in the spring.
Well, so
a little bit of this, a little bit of that.
But is there a central repository of dates that one can
not
go
really.
to see where Jessica?
Call me. You can call me.
All right. Okay.
I'm really bad at marketing.
That's okay.
Yeah.
So long as you're good at singing.
Yes, I am.
All right. Jessica, are you ready for the lightning round?
The lightning round, yes. I've done my homework.
You have?
Yes.
Okay.
Does it mean I have to talk really fast?
No.
Okay.
No. And
just quick answers?
Whatever. I mean, this is the irony of the lightning round is that there's nothing fast about it.
Don't hawk a chinik. There's your Yiddish. You ever heard that one?
Chinik.
I don't mean to hawk like a chinik. I don't mean to hawk a chinik.
A chinik is a tea kettle, isn't it?
Yes. I don't mean to hawk a chinik. And my grandmother used to say it means I don't mean to rattle like a tea kettle. There you go. There you go,
do
kids.
Do you want to hear a piece of Yiddish trivia?
Yes.
All right. Do you know what the word kvetch means?
Yes.
But like what it really means?
No.
So like what do you think it means?
Complain.
Right. But do you know what the actual Yiddish?
No.
It means to complain as though you are straining on a toilet. Totally serious. The actual original, yeah, right. It's so colorful, but
it's specific.
Yeah, because there's a different word for complain. It's not kvetch. Kvetch is the straining that one experiences when they're on the toilet.
Only on the toilet.
Yeah.
Well, I have a friend who's German, and I use Yiddish words here and there, and she'll always say, "Oh, well, that means this" in German, and I used Macher. You know, I said, he thinks he's a real Macher, you know, and she said, oh, Macher. In German, that means a go-to person, which makes sense because when I use it, I think, you know, somebody's full of themselves and they think they're really important. They think they're the go-to guy. So, yeah.
Huh.
I like that.
I always thought that was what's nebbish? No, nebbish is the opposite of that, I think.
Yeah, nebbish is like somebody who's super like homespun, like approachable, kind of like.
Oh, that's right.
Got maybe a little fupa.
All right, Jessica.
Head in with a laugh. Lightning round.
That tangent aside.
I want to be the only guest who used that in the last 5 minutes of there.
You might be the only guest that's ever used that, period.
Okay. Moving right along.
What is the non-religious book whose words you apply the most in your life on a day-to-day basis?
The answer to this question is, I hope this is not a religious book, Pema Chodron. Okay. It's a spiritual text because there's not a lot of mention of G-O-D in there.
Right.
But she talks, it's When Things Fall Apart. And it was my entrance into her theoretical writings. And she's a great writer. Yeah. And her words echo in my head all day, every day. And it really has to do with what we were discussing today, which is it's the how-to guide the Buddhist how-to guide of sitting with it.
Yeah.
And it normalizes it. It tells you like how, it's not, like sit in the corner and cross your legs and do this. It just, the way that she describes how to sit with discomfort and how to get through difficult things is so helpful to me all the time.
Yeah. Yeah. She is awesome because she doesn't really talk about Buddhism a lot, even though there's a lot of Buddhism in there. Mm-hmm. It's very practical.
Yep. It's very practical, and she uses a lot of personal experience. She also gives very funny examples. You know, she has her big thing is if you're going to fail well. Mm-hmm. That was a speech she gave at somebody's college. She's been divorced like 4 times. She lived a little.
Yeah. Yeah, no, she's awesome.
Yeah.
If you were a professional boxer, what song is playing as you enter the ring?
That's all going to depend on the day because I listen to certain songs like ad nauseum. And right now I am listening to The Kids by Loverboy. The kid and rock tonight. Anyways, I love Loverboy. Loverboy is like one of my like super guilty pleasures. I love like 80s like rock. So that would probably be, it's super energetic and inspiring and great singing. And I'd probably be wearing like a wrestling singlet or something.
Loverboy playing when you enter the ring.
Yeah. Maybe even Turn Me Loose. That's a great tune.
Interesting.
That bass line.
If you could ask one question of anyone who ever lived, who would it be and what would you ask them?
I would ask Margaret Sanger, who was the great-great-grandmother of reproductive rights. She was single-handedly, with her little motley crew, fought for the right for women to have more control over their reproduction at a time when it was absolutely uncalled for. I would ask her, dude, how did you get through that time? Because what she was doing and the flack she was getting, I think back to my chicken nugget example, that's small potatoes compared to what she endured in terms of open public shaming and harassing. And so that, how she overcame and got through, because she could have gone around. I'm a big fan of like, how did you get through instead of going around? Because she she persisted.
Yeah. It is so hard for me not to laugh when you were just talking because there's like this meme.
Reproduction and chicken nuggets.
No. There's this meme. There's like this thing going around in my Facebook that coronavirus, right? Have you seen the picture?
There's a lot of different ones.
It's this dude at an airport, and I guess he couldn't find a face mask, so he's using a maxi pad like for his face mask. It is so hard.
All right, I have to take a look for that.
Oh my God, it is painful. It's so funny.
But I see the connection, Margaret.
Well, the shape is pretty much like
it is.
Put
it's
a
the
rubber
same
band
thing.
around
It's
it.
hard to breathe. Well, I wouldn't know, but I could imagine.
You got to see it. As soon as you said reproductive rights, I couldn't get that image out of my head.
A friend of mine did a prank where they put maxi pads all over somebody's car in the parking lot in high school, like the whole car, like all over.
Wow, that's brilliant.
Yeah.
What is a habit or routine that you do on a regular basis that's given you the most mileage?
I was going to say flossing my teeth, but
okay, it's acceptable.
No, it is, but just because I feel very proud of myself flossing my teeth, I kind of feel like a real winner every single time I do it. But I think, and this is the one I didn't want to say because it does feel, I get annoyed at people when they say exercise because I'm like, ugh, whatever, like, oh, it's so awful to exercise, whatever. It feels like a opportunity to show off that I exercise, and I don't do it that much, but I do it consistently. So even if I only go for 20 minutes, because I used to tell myself, well, if you can't go for an hour, you can't go. But I just move my body, and that has given me so much mileage because I don't feel as angry. It's my sort of me time. I feel more focused. I got to check my email.
Do you go to the gym or do you?
I go to the JCC, which, very
they got a good gym there.
Yes, very homespun. It's a great gym. It doesn't smell like Subway anymore, which I'm very glad about. Good. It used to smell just like the kosher Subway, which I found out is the first and only in the whole country.
Kosher
Subway.
Is it still there?
It is. Wow. But it doesn't smell like bread everywhere anymore.
Yeah. You're right. That kosher Subway at one time made the entire JCC smell like Subway.
I think I moved to Lifetime as a result of the bread.
But they fumigated and somehow
they put a fan in or something.
Describe a time when you had a massive personal or business failure and how you bounced back.
6 years ago, I was at the large practice that looked very medical, and it had been where I had been for a really long time, and I had a very cushy, comfortable kind of situation there. They changed a lot of things about how they did business, and part of it was the way we kept notes and client information, and me no likey. I didn't like all the extra work. I didn't like that I had to have a computer in front of me when I was talking to my clients. It was so labor intensive. And besides just being a little lazy about those kinds of things, it also was hard to build rapport, and there was all this extra time I had to spend. Anyways, so basically I did what a hardworking, self-respecting person would do, and I refused to comply with what they were telling me I had to do. And they terminated my contract. They said, you got to get your shit together. You have a month. I made all these arguments with like confidentiality, and I pled my case as to why I should not be able, because it violates confidentiality, blah, blah, blah. They were like, whatever, just do what we're telling you to do. And so I didn't, and they terminated my contract, and I had to pick up my whole operation, and I had to do not compete. So I had to move X amount of miles away from any of their locations and start completely on my own from scratch. And I was terrified. And I had to sign a 5-year lease at a building. I had to become my own boss. I had to do everything from scratch. I had to buy my own cozy, the paint and the waiting room and everything. I had to get I had to do all my own marketing and all my everything.
So you bounced back because now you've got this amazing business.
Yeah.
What is the metric that you use at the end of the day to determine whether it's been a good day?
Sounding a little bit like a theme. I did not act like an asshole to anybody. That I did not hurt another human.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah. Because you can hurt people with your words. And if I did I make an amends? Because I'm a big fan of starting over. My kids know they get to start over anytime. The other day I was screaming and yelling at them, and my daughter, I stormed up to my room and slammed the door. And I said, I quit. I'm not a mother anymore. And I slammed the door. And my daughter made my son dinner downstairs quietly. They enjoyed dinner. They cleaned up. They picked up the Brussels sprouts that I threw across the room. And my daughter slipped a note under my door and said, Mom, can we start over?
Oh, my goodness.
And I was
Would you stop it?
That is all I need for the rest of my life to prove that I'm doing something right. But anyway, so if I make amends, that I didn't hurt another human. But the good news is that I do get to make amends. I get to make amends to somebody if I've hurt them. It doesn't make up for me being a jerk, but I get to start the next day and not be a jerk. Endeavor not to be a jerk.
Can I play psychotherapist again?
Yes.
So it's fascinating that you phrased it that way. To me, it's fascinating because you're in the business of helping people. And you define a successful day not in terms of whether you've helped people, but whether you haven't hurt anyone.
Yes.
So am I the only one in the room that thinks that that's like lowering the bar?
It is, because you know what? As with all entrepreneurs, I tend to have unreasonable expectations of myself. So that is my forced metric, meaning I have done my best. And at least I haven't hurt anybody. Everything else is icing on the cake. You know, like if I was kind and I let someone into traffic, score. If I helped a client and they had a breakthrough, score. But success cannot be based on those performative things for me, because I will always fail in my automatic metric. So my built-in metric that I've created for myself is the bar is super low on purpose.
I interviewed a guy named Chuck Mullen, who is the head of Apple Growth Partners. And when I asked him that question, so he does TM.
Oh, yeah.
Right? He does that. And when I asked him how he decides at the end of the day whether he had a good day, he said it is directly proportionate to how much I was present that day. And I thought that was such a great answer.
That is a good answer.
And the only reason I bring it up now is because I feel like the way that you, like, every day's got to be awesome for you, I think, right? Like, because I can't imagine.
Yes, Alex, every day is awesome for me.
I just can't imagine what, like, destructive Jessica would look like, right? I mean, it seems
just be glad you have not been on. Ask my husband. He has seen the worst of the worst of the worst. Wow. But I do have a personal success I'd like to share. May I?
Please, absolutely.
This Thursday, I will be sober for 3 years. Thank you. Which has a lot to do with...
How many years?
3. Woo, woo, woo. Yes.
Wow, congratulations.
Yeah, thank you so much. That has a lot to do with the not hurting people.
Yeah, setting the bar
in the right place. Wow. So I know that what I do helps people, I really do. So it does feel good when I show up, to help people and be, witness their journey or whatever. That's kind of what I would like to do. But yeah, in my personal life, I can cause a lot. I can be a real jerk. And my kids. I kind of want to talk to your kids. I kind of want to ask them, what does that look like? Ask my son about when Mommy threw the drum set across the house. The drum set? Oh, yeah. We had a miniature drum set. It's one of these stories that they love to bring up because they know I'm very easygoing about my failures. Yeah. That was a huge parenting failure. That and when I threw the Nook tablet into the backyard in the middle of winter when I was really pissed about how much time they were on the screen. It never came back in from the backyard. I just have a big temper. I'm part Irish, part Italian, built in. Jessica's kids, right into the show, send an email to me. You can interview them on the next show. I feel like this is a whole, because you are, every interaction I've ever had with you was filled with sage advice and even keel temperament and, humor and compassion. And so to me, this is like alien, it doesn't happen that much anymore. Used to a lot more. What is the metric you will use at the end of your life to determine whether you had a life well lived? I feel like it's like, it used to be like, was I likable? Did people adore me? And I secretly want that. To people to be like, she was the best and we adore her. However, I think that's more surfacey, that's ego. So I think just that I was, that I made people laugh or more in a bigger level, improved people's lives in some way, because I really love making people laugh. Which is why I'm a performer and why Lounge Kitty's my alter ego. But I do it, and it might have taken you by surprise that I made jokes in sessions. I like to use laughter a lot. So yeah, that I made people improve their lives in some way. Yeah, good. I think you'll get there. Yeah, good. As long as I keep doing the right thing, right? What question would you hate for me to ask you right now if you absolutely had to tell the truth? What I eat late at night when I'm watching TV. I just wouldn't want to talk about that. Okay. I won't ask you that. Yeah, please don't. I will, however, ask you this one. Yes. What is an assumption that you had for a long time that you later found out to be totally bullshit? That people had to be happy with me. That is the biggest effing load of bullshit. And I feel like every day, and I laid it on one of my young female clients today. I'm like, this is the game changer, especially for women. People do not have to like your boundaries. They don't have to be happy with you. It's okay for them to be unhappy. And you can get to the other side of that feeling. You can go through it instead of around it, right? That is like the worst possible assumption ever.
Wow.
So it was that, and I try to teach my kids that.
Yeah.
But it's like human nature. We don't want people to be unhappy, so we dance around.
Are you ready for the final, last, the most difficult, the most complex lightning round question of them all?
Yeah, but I guess I didn't read all the way down to the bottom.
I call this one the Widowmaker.
Uh-oh.
Jessica, what is an embarrassing thing about yourself that only a few people know, and for extra credit, for bonus points, that no one else knows? Now, I will tell you, there's only been one in 115 episodes, only one person who has gotten extra credit. An embarrassing thing that very few people know.
Oh, I've got one.
And for extra credit that nobody knows. Go.
I tried to take a picture of my butt in the mirror the other day for my husband. Nobody. Am I blushing?
You are blushing.
Oh, okay, cool.
But you got extra credit. You're only the second person in Best Podcast Ever history.
Because you know what? 75% of people listening to this right now have also tried to get the perfect picture of their butt. And they've taken 4 or 5. And guess what? I took 4 or 5. I didn't like any of them. So I deleted them all.
Oh, you didn't send any?
No, because they were not good. I couldn't get the whole filter, like sunshine filter of the smooth butt filter, which they should have. Yeah.
Wow. Mm-hmm. Well, did you discuss this with your husband? Is he aware of it?
He doesn't know, but every once in a while, if I send him something sassy, which I have known to do, it's a good way to keep your marriage alive.
Sure.
He will say, wow, it looks like you worked really hard to get that perfect shot.
Like you adjusted the lighting and the shadows.
Yes, I'm like, okay, guys, come on in here. We need extra light. Hey, well, God, that was about to be a lounge kitty there. I almost said it. I was about to say, tell my son to hold the light up a little bit more. Just kidding. My kids were not involved. I was alone. The dog was there. Vinny was there.
Vinny was there?
Just looking on with his usual disgust.
Hiding his snout.
No, he's just like, ugh, you. Again with the butt pictures.
What is Vinny's persona? Like what is the voice that you think Vinny has in his mind?
He's very submissive. So his voice is always like, is it okay?
Oh,
is
really?
it okay? Am I okay? Are we okay? Do you like me? Are we okay? Because he's always furtively looking around and pressing his nose to my nose, because he's like, Mama, is it okay?
I totally
really nervous, dude.
The voice that I imagine him having is Joe Pesci. I don't.
He could say that in a Joe Pesci voice.
Yeah.
Do you want to try that?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
No,
all right. I thought you were gonna. I don't know how to do Joe Pesci. But like a gangster, yeah. Come over here. I want you to perform for my daughter's wedding.
Well, here he did the. In My Cousin Vinny.
Hold the light while I take my butt picture.
He said something about the Utes. The Utes, right?
Right from
My Cousin Vinny.
My Cousin Vinny. Oh, such
I
a
don't
good
know.
movie.
I don't do impressions.
Yeah, that's my Vinny impression.
I declare, Jessica, this podcast.
Winner.
Well, you are definitely you're the winner of.
I'm the one most willing to humiliate herself for the sake of art.
You are truly a Brene Brown vulnerability follower.
I am.
She would be so proud if she were sitting right here.
She'd be like, "Oh, she's doing bad press for me.
She's taking pictures of her butt.
Don't go that far. You gotta have some dignity, woman. Have some dignity."
Oh man, no! I declare this podcast a giant success. What do you think?
Good.
Today's
yes,
episode.
It was great. I had a great time.
Good. I felt I felt a little surreal because usually you're asking me questions, and now I got to ask you questions.
You're grilling me. You should be a therapist,
right? Well, or a lawyer.
A lawyer. Yeah. You'd be really good at that.
No, this was awesome. Thank you for doing this. I really appreciate it.
Thanks for having me. You thought you asked me and I turned you down, but you never asked me.
I did. I totally thought. Gosh, I could have sworn I had.
Yeah, because when you finally wrote me, you said,
persistence.
Come on, will you please do the I'm like, well, yeah, I'll do it.
Well, I think I know what happened, right? Because you know how in your office, I'm always complaining about my shitty memory?
Yes.
So it turns out that...
you forgot.
No, was previously trying to get Joe Rock on the on here, and he was very.
He had appropriate boundaries and said no.
No, well, he worked for the Cleveland Clinic, and he was like, "I got to run it up the flagpole." And
right, yeah,
that's a long flagpole at the Cleveland Clinic.
I wouldn't want to have to represent them because I would really fail.
Well, you're like, well, or you would make them a lot more money because I think you're the coolest therapist. And, Joe, if you're listening.
Hi, Joe.
Yeah, sorry.
We've never met in person.
He's a good dude.
Yeah,
he should come work. Stuff. You guys should work together, actually.
I actually have thought about contacting him because I think he also works in the recovery program.
Yes.
And he has a really great network of support for men in recovery. And I've heard wonderful things about that. So I should connect with him because, I am a sober therapist and I could potentially be a really good resource for him. So thanks for the reminder.
Do you mean you're a sober therapist in that you are sober or that you give therapy to people who want to be sober?
Pictures of my butt are sobering. No, I'm just kidding.
Silly.
I know.
If you are listening, if you have listened this far, then you are Jessica's kids and her husband who doesn't live with her.
My kids would never listen to this.
Really?
No.
But whoever you are, you're listening this far because you really are enjoying yourself.
Yes.
Or someone's got a gun to your head.
Yes,
and
it could
making you
be.
listen.
Exactly.
Right. But no, I suspect strongly that it's because you enjoyed listening to this podcast and you can't wait to find out when the next one drops.
Absolutely.
Right. And so to do that, here's what I'm going to ask you to do. Whatever device you are listening to this show on, there ought to be a way, I believe, to leave a review or a rating or subscribe. Do all of those things.
All of them.
All of them. And then tell your friends.
Share.
And then ask them to do this. Do the same thing. Because I really enjoy doing this. And I want to keep doing it. I guess that's unrelated. I'd do it even if there was like one person listening. But
dance like no one's watching.
Yeah, right. But I desperately need the feeling that I'm talking to more than just the person who I'm interviewing. And so, so if you can't figure out on your device how to do any of those things, then go to iTunes and write some nice stuff there and leave a nice review there.
Yes.
And then if you go to there's a Facebook page for Best Podcast Ever, and then you can hit like there. And if you are clueless about how to do either of those things, then just go to thebestpodcastever.com and then you hit subscribe. And if you've done any combination of those things, then you'll be in the know. You'll be one of the cool kids.
Yes.
Right? And you'll get like show notes. So like if you go to the show notes on this one, then you will see, you will, I was going to say like you'd see like Lounge Kitty stuff, but you're not advertising.
I know, I'm a failure marketing failure.
Are there Lounge Kitty
ashtrays? There were going to be
ashtrays. No, I was going to say YouTube videos.
There are. If you look up Lounge Kitty, there's a smattering of them. There's one from the music box. It's really, there's not much out there, which adds to my air of mystery.
It's true.
Yes.
It just leaves us wanting more. We're just...
Exactly. There's my marketing ploy.
Yeah. But in the show notes, there will be links to those smattering of YouTube videos, right? And isn't that what you really want when you're listening to these amazing interviews, is to be able to just click on whatever the video is?
Totally.
Right?
Yeah.
So do any of that. Jessica, is there anything you'd like to get out to the universe that we haven't talked about?
I've already sent way too much out. I'm in the negative at this point. I need to be having some silence in the car on the way home.
No way. That was amazing. That was so fun. Thank you. And thanks for everything that you do and everything that you did for me and everything that you're doing for all the other people who are lucky enough to have you talk to them.
Thank you,
about their most intimate, personal, deepest, darkest things.
Thank you.
No, you're amazing. You're amazing.
You.
And in all seriousness, I'm going to say this, and I'm not blowing smoke up your butt here when I say this. Number one, I truly believe everybody should have a therapist.
I agree.
We all need to get out of our heads. We all need to share things with somebody when we don't share those things with our spouses or with our friends, our employees, whatever, right? Having somebody that will listen non-judgmentally to the things that you're being judgmental about.
Yes.
So important.
So important.
Number one. And number two, call Jessica because she's really good at it.
Call Jessica.
Yeah.
I want to listen and be present for you.
Yeah. Yeah. And her contact info will definitely be in the show notes. So go to thebest.Podcast.Ever.com and look it up. But why don't you just tell everyone how they can find you
Just
anyway?
call me on my cell phone. It's
Really?
216-288-6560.
I mean,
no pranks.
There's like 1 million listeners out there right now.
Well, you know what? Don't be inappropriate.
Yeah. Don't be an asshole.
Don't be an asshole.
Therapeutically speaking.
Because now you know what's going to happen if I'm mad at you. So be careful.
No.
Yeah, my email is jhorvat3803@gmail.com. jhorvat3803@gmail.com. That's how people get a hold of me. My profile's on Psychology Today, so you can just look up my name, Jessica Horvat, Horvat, no H on the end. So,
you would be doing yourself a huge service by calling Jessica, and that's all I'm going to say about it. Jessica, thank you so much. You're amazing.
Thank you.
I appreciate it. Folks, we'll see you next time.
Bye-bye.
We hope you enjoyed this episode, and we thank you for listening. And remember to check out the Gertzberg Law Firm. Whether you are starting, running, growing, or transitioning a business, or if you need to create or update your wills, trust, or estate plan, our team will give you an incredible level of personalized attention and a passionate commitment to meet your objectives. We are veteran-owned, and our award-winning lawyers have the highest ranking from Super Lawyers and Avo. We have also recently received the coveted Weatherhead 100 Upstarts Award for a second year in a row, and we are among the first Ohio business law firms to offer our clients a non-billable alternative on every single matter we handle for them and opt out of the billable hour. What we are most proud of, though, are the many things our clients rely on us for. We successfully defend them in court, but we also help them avoid the courtroom with our Cover My Six service. We protect their assets through good estate and succession planning, and we assist our clients in many non-legal business services like recruiting and business development. We want our clients to feel confident in their choices and to help them resolve any issues or potential problems quickly and efficiently so they can get back to what they love, running their businesses. More than just litigators, we are trusted advisors, problem solvers, and growers of businesses. Let us help you and your company. Call us or find us online to learn more. Thanks again for listening. We'll see you next time.